Hello, everyone. Today we'd be discussing the secularization debate. Now, before we begin, let's talk about what the word secularization means, or let's talk about how a layman, a common man, uses the word secularization. The word secularization, as it's known by many, refers to a situation when religion is experiencing a decline, when religion is experiencing a decline within a society, or when the social significance of religion is experiencing a decline within society. So, the idea that religion is losing its social significance within a particular society is referred to as secularization. Now, this is how, like I said, a layman or a common man would see it. But would a sociology student be expected to see it in the same way? No, a sociology student would be expected to delve more into it. A sociology student would be expected. It would be expected from a sociology student to scrutinize this entire idea of secularization taking place or not taking place through different dimensions. Now, to begin with, I would like to show you all the significance of this particular topic in terms of our CIs. If you have a look at the screen, I have marked the questions that we've had in May, June 2021 and May, June 2022 in our CIs. If you have a closer look, we have had, so we just talking about we just discussing questions from two particular years. If you have a closer look, we have had some 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So in these 2 years, we've had questions on secularization, questions that are directly on secularization or that are linked with another topic around 11 times. That's quite a lot. And this number 11 pretty much explains the significance and the popularity of this particular topic in terms of our preparation for CIs. To begin with, now initially we'd start off with the secularization thesis, but before we even get into the secularization thesis, I would like to discuss a couple of definitions of secularization. If you guys remember, we had spoken about how the word religion does not have any unanimous agreement, right? How the word religion is not seen by everyone in the same way, how religion in itself is not seen by everyone in the same way. Likewise, when we talk about secularization, there are three different definitions of secularization that I'd like to bring in under discussion today. To begin with, initially, I'd like to speak about the definition that was conducted by Wilson in the year 1966. Number two, I'd like to discuss the definition that was put forward by Steve Bruce in the year 2002. And number three, I'd like to discuss this definition that was put forward by Jose Casanova in the year 2003. Yes, that is the Spanish gentleman. So this is how you spell it, because he's from Spain or the Spanish origin. We'd refer to him as Casanova or Jose Casanova. There are three different definitions, like I said, that we'd be taking into account now. To begin with, let's start off with how Brian Wilson or how Wilson defines what secularization is. Now, as we speak about secularization, according to Brian Wilson, in the year 1966, see, I'm referring to 1966, that is good about around 60 years back, right? So, according to Brian Wilson, secularization is a process. What is secularization? According to Brian Wilson, secularization is a process whereby the religious thinking, number one, according to Brian Wilson, secularization is a process by which religious thinking, religious practices, and religious institutions lose their social significance, right? Now, according to Brian Wilson, secularization is a process. Learn it with me here. Secularization is a process whereby religious thinking, religious practices, and religious institutions, they lose their social significance over here. Now, this is a pretty classic definition of secularization that was put forward by Brian Wilson. This definition is pretty it's a good starting point. I like to refer to this as a good starting point because as nicely as he puts it when he refers to secularization being a process through which religious thinking, religious practice, and religious institutions are experiencing a decline, we also need to be sure about what Wilson meant when he referred to religious thinking. How is he operationalizing the term? Now, for the ones who do not know what operationalization is, in its easiest of form, how is Wilson defining what religious thinking is? Or, in other words, how is it that someone would be able to differentiate between a religious thinking and a non religious thinking? There has to be a clear cut definition to it. Or, in other words, Wilson was expected to operationalize this, which he did not. One. Number two, he refers to religious practices. Now, religious practices are in many cases very obvious and very evident, such as if we speak about traditional or conventional religions, religions like Islam, religions like Christianity, religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Taoism, and all these religions and more, because these classic religions, when anyone is practicing religion, it is very evident, or because they typically believe in congregational prayers or congregational practices or collective practice, right? It gets easier for someone to figure out if religion is being practiced or otherwise. Nonetheless, we cannot ignore new religious movements. We all know that there are many new religious movements, and then not to forget new age movements as well. The individuals who are involved into, or who are a part of, or who identify themselves as members of new age movements, how do you think someone would be able to figure out if they're practicing religion or otherwise? Now, for the ones who still don't get this point, let me try making it a bit easier for you while at the same time not getting derailed. So I'm talking about the distinction between traditional religions and new religious movements and new age movements. Traditional or conventional religions, such as, like I said, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Sikhism, Buddhism, Taoism, etc. These would be referred to as traditional religions over here. Now, new religious movements, as the word new over here in itself explains, these were religious movements that gained popularity back in the 1960s, 1970s. I mean, if we speak about examples over here, you could speak about Osho Bhagwan Shri Rajneesh. You can Google this gentleman. You could speak about the Jim Jones Temple, Jim Jones, and etc. etc. Now, these are new religious movements. They're relatively new religious movements, right? They emerged in the 1960s and 1970s. However, if you use the word New Age movement, the New Age movement, again, these were religiously enthusiastic individuals who found out a very new way of being religious, and they gained their popularities in 1980s, many say 1970s, I'd say 1980s and 1990s. Now, the reason I have put this over here is to help you understand how we are talking about different forms of religion, right? From a distinction between traditional religions to the new religious movements to new age movements, right? Now, like I said, if we speak about religious practices, right, we're talking about religious practices, and that is what took us here. Religious practices for these, because they believe in congregational prayers, congregational prayers or practices. Congregational, the word congregational over here refers to collective, because they are collectively praying. It's not very difficult to keep a check on them, or to keep account of them, right? I understand, as a sociology student, what might occur to you is, what about the validity, what about reliability? I mean, that being there, but when you're praying or when you're practicing religion collectively, it's more obvious as compared to you practicing religion on your own. That is the more private ways of being religious, which was also refers to as the holistic milieu, right? Or private worship, in contrast to the congregational domain, right? Now, I hope this has helped you understand this a bit. Getting back to the definition that was put forward by Brian Wilson. What is secularization again? According to Brian Wilson, secularization is a process whereby religious thinking, religious practices, and religious institutions lose their social significance, right? Now, likewise, if we speak about the religious institutions losing their social significance, if I try scrutinizing this, do you think there's any particular parameter through which you'd be able to figure out which particular religion is actually losing its significance or it's not? Of course we do not. So this definition is useful because it makes clear that secularization is a process. It is also a very broad definition that covers a range of different aspects. Why I said that we're using the word range over here, because of this, and this different aspects of religion. However, it is hard to use this definition to measure or operationalize secularization, because Wilson is not clear about what he means by religious thinking, by religious practice, or institution specifically. These three aspects of religion could be differently interpreted, and therefore, when measured, may produce different results. Now, if I'm someone who's measuring religious thinking compared to you being someone who's measuring religious thinking, we might come up with different results. So is the case with measuring religious practices and measuring religious institutions. Now, another problem, when we talk about secularization, if you, I mean, you could try this if you want to. You could go and speak to your friends, a bunch of friends, if they're sitting together. You might as well walk them through what the word secularization means, and then you'd ask them. If you end up asking them, hey, do you think secularization is taking place? Or if you want to make it easier for them, you could throw up a question at them asking, hey, do you think religion is experiencing a decline? You'd come across many of the people around you, or the people that you question, coming up with a response that would show how they feel that secularization is taking place. But do you realize, if I connect this with what I had said right at the beginning, secularization is when religion is experiencing a decline, right? So this is, if you're talking about a decline here, right? Today, as I speak, it is 2024. What year, or what particular period, or what particular time am I comparing this with? I mean, if I say secularization is taking place, am I comparing it with 2014? Am I comparing it 2004? Am I comparing it with 1924? Am I comparing it with 1824, etc., etc.? So when you talk about religion experiencing a decline, what was your starting point? What was your baseline? How did you compare religion back then, or how is it, or what parameters are you using to compare religion back then with religion today? Would, again, like I said, being a sociology student here, do I have any specific definition, or how can I be sure that the way religion was measured back then, let's just say in 1924, if I compare it with 2004, how do you think we'd be measuring the same thing? We cannot. Likewise, there's a possibility that I might want to make a comparison with 1924. You might want to make a comparison with 2004. So, do we have any unanimous agreement on what particular time, what particular point in time in history would we make a comparison with? So, do you see? It's not as easy as it is apparently. It's not as easy as it apparently looks like, because when we speak about secularization, as we use the word secularization, being a sociology student, it's pretty essential that you understand that things shouldn't be seen at face value, right? Just saying that secularization is taking place or not taking place, it's very easy, very convenient, very simple. But being a sociology student, you're expected to delve more into it. Now, another problem with Wilson's definition is that he is not clear about when the process began, making it difficult to measure the extent to which secularization has occurred. Now, guess what? I had said we'd be discussing three different definitions. Number one, the definition that was put forward by Brian Wilson in the year 1966. Number two, the definition that was put forward by Steve Bruce in the year 2002. And number three, the definition that was put forward by Casanova in the year 2003. Now, before I even move on to the second definition, one, the amount of time that I took explaining this to you, not only would this help you in terms of your CI examination, but this, as I typically put it, this would help you as a sociology student understand how things are not as simple or as black and white as they apparently appear to be like. Now, for the way the information that we've discussed, or the definition that I've discussed right now, how do you think you could put it to use? Remember, my dear, for paper 4 AO3, that is assessment objective 3, that is evaluation analysis, bears 15 marks, right? So this could help you evaluate the content you've written in your answer in an amazing manner, right? Now, taking this ahead to discuss the second definition. Now, according to Steve Bruce, secularization, what is okay about Steve Bruce first. Steve Bruce is a very popular British sociologist. He's affiliated with the University of Chester. If you speak about Steve Bruce has been a faculty member at the Queen's University as well. He's very popular when it comes to theories about religion, specifically secularization. Now, about Steve Bruce, in an attempt to produce a better definition, Bruce in 2002 provides the following. Now, it's pretty important that we understand that Wilson came up with this definition in 1966. So 76, 86, 96, and 2006, 4 years short, that makes it about good 34 years, right? After 34 years, Steve Bruce comes up with another definition over here. How is secularization, or what is secularization according to Steve Bruce? According to Steve Bruce, secularization is a social condition, right? Now, Wilson was referring to secularization as a process. However, Steve Bruce is referring to secularization as a social condition that manifests. Now, for the ones who do not know what the word manifest means, that displays a social condition, that displays, or a social condition that makes it evident, or a social condition that shows, to put it in a simple manner. According to Steve Bruce, secularization is a social condition that shows, or that reflects in, number one, a declining importance of religion for the operation of non-religious roles and institutions such as those of the state and the economy. Now, a social condition that is reflected in religion experiencing a decline in terms of its significance for the operation of non-religious roles, for the operation of non-religious roles. Now, what does this mean? That means that according to Bruce, religion did hold a lot of significance when it came to when it came to being a part of non-religious institutions as well. Now, if I may give you an example over here of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, many of you would be aware that for quite a while, religion used to hold a lot of significance, had a very important role to play in many of the non-religious affairs as well, right? For instance, religion could be playing an important role when it comes to the economy of a particular country. Religion might be playing a very important role when it comes to the judicial system, like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So, according to Steve Bruce, the declining importance of religion for the operation of non religious roles and institutions, such as those of the state and the economy. In its simpler words and its simplest form, when religion is losing its social significance when it comes to non religious roles that it once used to play. One. Number two, a decline in the social standing of religious roles and institutions. Over here, we are talking about non-religious institutions. In the second one, we're talking about the religious institutions. When religious institutions, they start experiencing a decline in their social standing, or in other words, the extent to which church used to be considered important at any particular given point in time, compared to the way church is seen as being important, is being seen as less important today. So, a decline in the social standing of religious roles and institutions. Number two. Number three, a decline in the extent to which people engage in religious practices, display beliefs of a religious kind, and conduct other aspects of their lives in a manner informed by such beliefs. Now, the first one the first point over here had to do in terms of how religion had lost its significance in terms of non-religious roles that it used to play. One. Number two, the social standing of religion experiencing decline in terms of religious institutions, right? The church, for instance. Number three, the extent to which people are engaging less into religious practice, they are displaying less of religious beliefs, and religion is affecting their lives in a lesser manner as compared to the past. Now, this definition is relatively, again, I'd like to say, easier to operationalize as it is more detailed. However, like Brian Wilson, Steve Bruce does not provide a time scale, nor does he explain exactly what beliefs of a religious kind are. Now, this is beliefs of a religious kind. This is what we're talking about. Here you go, right? So Bruce does not provide us with a time scale. Like I said, what time frame are you referring to? What are you using as a baseline for comparison? Part of the problem is that religion takes many different forms. Again, this is something that I had shown to you. I just mark it to you so that part of this religion takes many different forms. Now, this is what we're talking about, right? I hope you can see this here. Just make it more clearer, right? The different forms of religion. Okay. Now, traditional, are we referring to traditional religions? Are we referring to new religious movements? Are we referring to new age movements? Question mark. So this definition is easier to operationalize as it is more detailed. However, like Wilson, Bruce does not provide a time scale, nor does he explain exactly what beliefs of a religious kind are. Part of the problem is that religion takes many different forms and is practiced in an increasingly varied number of different ways in different contexts. There are different definitions of religion and religiosity. There are more inclusive definitions of religion as compared to the exclusive definitions of religion. For inclusive definition of religions, they are also referred to as the functional definitions of religion. If you do not know this, there's another video that I put, I believe, a couple of months back. It says lesson one religion, right? I believe it says definitions of religion, lesson one. And watch that video, and it would help you understand all of this in an amazing manner. So there are different definitions of religion and religiosity. There are more inclusive definitions of religion that can include a range of activities and beliefs that may not be seen as religious by some. However, despite these difficulties, Wilson's and Bruce's definitions are useful initial starting point. They're very good when it comes to taking a start over here. So we spoke about the definition that was put forward by Brian Wilson. We spoke about the definition of religion that was put forward by Steve Bruce. The third gentleman over here, the Spanish gentleman, Jose Casanova. Let's have a look at what his definition over here looks like. So Casanova, more recently, relatively recently, this is again around 20 years back, he identifies a significant division between two types of definitions of the term secularization, reflecting two levels of approaching the issue. According to Casanova, we could approach this particular issue of secularization at two different levels, the macro level and the micro level, right? The macro level or the large level, or the micro level at a smaller level, reflecting the two levels of approaching the issue, the macro that is large scale and the micro that is small scale. One way of using the term sees secularization as a macro process, that is, the secularization of societal structures or the diminution of social significance of religion, right? Secularization of societal structures. How is it that the different structures of society such as the family, the education system, the media, the law enforcement agencies, the criminal justice system, the judiciary, so on and so forth, how the secularization of societal structures of the diminution of the social significance of religion, according to Casanova in the year 2003. In this definition, the main emphasis is on religious institutions and religious beliefs playing a decreasing role in influencing public life. So if you'd like to take hints over here, the macro level over here, or the macro definition, or the macro approach to seeing secularization is, or it has more to do with how religion affects individuals or their public life, so that religion becomes an increasingly, okay, wait. So in this definition, the main emphasis is on religious institutions and religious beliefs playing a decreasing role in influencing public life, so that religion becomes an increasingly private matter. However, this definition is difficult to measure quantitatively with statistics. For example, the other way of measuring the term is at a more micro level and refers to the decline of religious, the decline of yeah. So, for example, the other way of measuring the term is at a more micro level and refers to the decline of religious beliefs and practices amongst individuals. So, micro level is focusing on more how religion is affecting individuals within a society. The macro level looks at or approaches this issue by taking into account how it has been affecting the societal structures, taking it ahead. At the smaller scale, the emphasis is on how many people believe in God, how many people attend church or other places of worship, and how many may affiliate to a particular religion. Each of these measures is likely to produce a very different picture of the role of religion. So we spoke about how Jose Casanova defines secularization. If I sum it up, according to him, you it would be better if you see religion or approach this entire issue of secularization at two different levels, the macro level or the micro level. The macro level, how religion is affecting the structures of society; the micro level, how religion is affecting individuals at a micro level or at an individual level. For instance, how they, or the extent to which they believe in God, the extent to which they're attending churches, so on and so forth. So it is pretty important that we all understand the different ways, through the few different ways, I'd rather say, the few different ways through which we could define religion. I'd like to reiterate this subject. Sociology is amazing. It enhances your understanding of the world. It enhances the way, it broadens your horizons. It's the way you see the world. It just changes it like this, right? And changes it. I mean, it's good to know what happens around us, and it's good to develop this critical thinking. So before we could even begin with the secularization debate, like I had said, I'd initially want to discuss these three different definitions put forward by Brian Wilson, 1966, Steve Bruce, 2002, and Jose Casanova in the year 2003. Next, we'd speak about the secularization thesis, and we'd move on and discuss what the classical sociology theorists or the classical theorists had to say about secularization, what the more contemporary ones had to say about secularization, followed with evidence in support of the secularization debate, against the secularization debate, so on and so forth. But before we could even step into that, I'd be I'd really expect you all to know these three definitions real well. And as we proceed, I mean, this entire topic, secularization, this is the most popular topic without any doubt. And if I talk about myself, it's one of the most favorite topics that I'd like discussing. Let's do justice to this topic. Not only does this uh, increase our chances of evaluating our content, our evaluative essay content better, but it also helps us learn more about secularization. So yeah, I'd expect you all to learn this, watch this once, watch this twice if required, make notes over here, understand this better, and we'd then discuss it ahead, and we talk about how the content that we discussed today would help us write better answers. So I'd like to divide this topic into a couple of uh, different videos. Else, I know I could go on speaking hours and hours on secularization, but I'd like to keep it short and easy for you and divide it into parts. So I'd expect you all to get through this real well before you even begin the next one. I hope this has been helpful. Take good care of yourselves. Have an amazing day. Bye bye.